Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the World's Okayest Mountain Bike Podcast. At this present moment, Kyle and Ryan are getting inside of a side-by-side in Ryan's garage together, except they have the camera set up for a blurry background, but there's two faces and it's having trouble deciding who to look at, I guess. Ryan, what are we sitting in right now?
Oh, dude, we have a brand new 2024 Can-Am Commander XTP Max 1000R.
Okay, I'm just going to take your word for it that that's pretty awesome.
It is awesome. I mean, it's so cool. We do a ton of marketing. We had some with Brandon Semenuk and some of the top elite mountain bikers, and we actually used this exact vehicle last weekend at Red Bull Rampage to transport. Exactly, not mine, but the same model.
Okay, well, I'm gonna need Can-Am to pitch in some dollars for this podcast. We're gonna keep plugging them like that.
Oh. Okay.
Also joining us on the podcast today is not so silent Bryce. He's not going to be silent today, although I'm looking at his screen and I see that he is muted himself, and I can't tell if that means he's not by his device or if he's just going to continue to be silent Bryce, even though he's right here. Oh, wait. Bryce, be not so silent Bryce.
Present.
He's here. We finally got him to talk. Well, this is our BT Epic wrap-up podcast for 2023. And lots of storylines here. Everybody, last year, this podcast, we bullied Kyle into agreeing to do this race. And dadgummit, he did it. Bryce, the guy, a friend of mine from my hometown that started riding last summer, I pretty much shamed him into doing it, I feel like, and almost regret that at this point, which we'll get into. But there's a lot of storylines here, and we'll just open up with the most the most pressing one is that out of all four of us who did this race this year, I, for sure, was the biggest disappointment by far out of all four of us. I think we all agree. We all can all agree on that.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm the only one who underperformed expectations. I had no excuse for it.
Klint, I'm just surprised because, and I know you are too. Whatever. Because, when we rode, what was that, 3 weeks before? I thought you were riding really good. I even told you, I'm like, you're in way better shape than last year.
That's what I thought. I've done way more big rides. I've done way faster big rides. And I don't know if starting I think maybe I paced myself too much from the start and was farther back in the pack than I was last year. And maybe I just was caught up in that pace thinking it was fine, and it wasn't. I feel like my stop times were less than last year. I think I spent less time stopped. And yeah.
Hey, Klint.
I don't know, man.
Clinton, when we took off from the start, I know you and Kyle were kind of over to the left.
We were way in the back.
Okay.
I mean, we were last year. I was literally in the very front off the start. And I mean, people were passing me on the gravel pretty fast, but this year I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to pace myself, blah, blah, blah. And I think that was all a big mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get in, but they took off down the road and up the gravel pretty good. And because I was further up front, you kind of got a little bit of a toe from people that were within your ability. It obviously spread out, but I think for me being that further up front, when we got into the single track, it was noticeably better talent for the most part up front.
Oh, yeah. Just hanging with the pace.
We were so far back, Ryan, that there was no bottleneck on the downhill. It had already cleared out.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
There were a few people walking, but they there was just a few so people could get around them.
Yeah.
Now, there was a super long line at the first creek crossing, and I want to talk about this real quick because I don't I don't want people mad at me, but I thought, so there's like this line of like, I don't know, 30 people or more, and this line is going on for a long way. People just standing there. And I know what they're waiting on. They're waiting on this creek crossing. Well, I start walking by everybody or riding by everybody, and I know that probably seems like a jerk move, but here's the thing is whoa, whatever we just turned on, we need to turn off. Yeah, I think that was Kyle used his second device. That wasn't working. Anyway, just hang up, Kyle. Like, you're sitting next to Ryan. You don't need two devices next to each other. There we go. Anyway, I just want to explain, if you're someone listening and you're like, that Klint guy and his buddy Bryce are jerks and that we were all waiting in line like decent humans and they were going by, understand, I've been out there enough times. There's a place that's not the main line that you can jump down into a gravel bar and cross the creek. All right. Now, what I messed up on is I didn't realize there's not a way out of the other side of the creek from that point. So ended up just standing there watching people go by until Bryce came along because he didn't follow me. And I just jumped in front of him. So here's the thing. We did not hold anybody else up. Like, we didn't get in anybody else's way and slow their race down by doing this. And I thought I had an alternative line that I could take out the other side if you're willing to just get poison ivy and bash through the brush. That's what happened there. So if
but I think you unnecessarily just threw yourself under the bus. But
I don't. Like I said, I didn't slow anybody else up. Like, I don't know. It's a bike race, so I don't know. Like,
yeah, that spot does suck to sit there. Like, you get there and like you just gotta wait. Like,
it was.
I don't understand what
the time I got there.
Just I don't. Somebody at some point decided I'm gonna stop and watch someone else go through and out the other side before I go. I don't know who the first person was to make that decision, but the problem is they made that decision for literally the next 40 people behind them.
Right.
So
I mean, you guys were probably through the creek already by the time I got there. And
oh yeah.
It was 100 people. I mean, it was 5 to 8 minutes. And I got stuff out of my pack. I was sorting through my bag. Like, it was slow moving through there.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like, I know I'm not fast, obviously, but I still want to do my best, right? And standing there is not helping that. And like I said, I thought there was another way out of the creek. There was another way into the creek if you just pick your bike up and jump across some water into a gravel bar. That's not the trail line.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm not slowing anybody else down. I'm just doing something else. It looks bad because I'm walking past you and you're standing there. I get that. Might ruffle some feathers, but if I can honestly say, any point during this race, if someone got up behind me, we either asked, do you want me to let you by? And if they did, not only would I actually slow up a little bit so they could pass, if I could at all possible, I would move over into the leaves to let other people pass me, because I don't want to hold people up. Like, I don't want to do that. That being said, I don't know about y'all, but Bryce and I and the group we were with, we had our run-ins with someone who did not want to let anybody by. It was, if you're going to go by me, you are going to have to do all the work to get by. I don't know who she was, but this started around Brazil Creek, or before Brazil Creek, going up the Q-tip climb to the top above Brazil Creek. We caught her at the bottom of that climb, the bottom of a descent, And usually if you catch up to people, you say, hey, can I get by up here? They're like, yeah, and they kind of move a little and you go off a little and they might slow their cadence down just a hair. No, no, sir. This was, you're an idiot for wanting to go faster than me. And I am not. Like, if you want by, good luck. Well, anyway,
I think that's why you didn't beat last year.
We
it's all her fault, Klint.
Bro,
you were sabotaged.
It was we got by, but she was very unhappy with, like, the tone of her voice was not pleased with us for even. I don't understand what people expect. It's like, was it just us? I know it wasn't, because other people in our kind of, you kind of you see the same people. Maybe you stop to grab a pickle juice and they go and you catch them and they stop to do something. You pack just 6 hours out there. You see the same people and everybody had a story, man. Everybody. So this went on several times. We must have passed and repassed the same person 4 or 5 times, and every time it was getting worse, like, because I don't know, man.
Klint, so far in this podcast, all you've talked about is how you piss people off your entire race.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. I don't know, man. I guess I need to quit.
Doesn't sound like you had fun. Kyle had more fun and he died.
Yeah, I suffered for most of it.
Okay, well, let's move on from that and talk about the fun. Okay. Shout out to the Wolfpack boys. I don't know any of their names, but Bryce and I got with a group of guys. There was us two and there were about 4 others. Huh?
There was a lady in there, or 2.
Okay, I don't know. I was at the front of it, so I don't know, but we were having a good old time from Brazil Creek to Berryman, like chatting it up. I'm telling them about the false climbs to Floyd Tower Road that you think you're almost there and you're really not, and we were cutting up. They called me Captain America. I don't know. We were having a great time. We literally, from Floyd Tower Road crossing, you have that nice long, super fast, flowy section.
Somebody was really talking Klint up. They called him Captain America, the Prophet. He said, my kid has a poster of you on their wall. Who was that? He was cracking me up.
I feel terrible. I don't know. We were literally shouting, "Wee!" every time we'd make a left-hand turn after Floyd Tower Road, because the bank of the trail was like a berm for like every left-hander. So the rule was every time you hit like a bank, you had to shout "wee." So we're just rolling down the trail in this race, just "wee," and I can hear Bryce behind me, "wee." Like, it was great. That was the best part of the race. Anyway, short story for me. My finish time was 6 hours, 30 minutes. Should have been 6:25. I got a flat with 2 miles to go. I got the puncture passing our dear friend on the titanium hardtail. So yeah, that's a little disappointing considering I did 6:18 last year.
Wait, you're talking the dear friend that was holding you up the hill, and with 2 miles to go, you just...
I had to send it through a creek off trail to get around her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, she was tough. There's no denying that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm not.
You rode behind her for 4 hours. It sounds like she must have been real tough to get.
I don't think she stopped.
No, she literally never stopped. We'd catch her, pass her, but then if we had to stop to, like, my dad kind of messed me up, so I asked him to refill my frame bag with Cliff Blocks. I said, Dad, this was at Berryman. I said, empty these packages of Cliff Blocks into this bag. All he did was throw the packages in there. So when I went to reach in to get something to eat, they were still sealed up, like in the wrapper. So like I had to stop. I had just passed her and I had to stop and unload those. So it was like every time we'd stop, if it was more than like a minute, she'd catch us and pass us, and then we'd start the whole process over again. So this went on like over and over and over and over.
I think next year you and her need to start together at the beginning.
Bro, I have a plan.
Maybe this could be a bet for next year. We need to find out who this gal is.
I'm not gonna call her out.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna name her.
By the way, if you know who this is, please tag her in this podcast.
Oh, please do. Maybe call in on the next one or something. We got to get her on.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. I can promise you she was not pleased with more people than just me.
Yeah, who is the linebacker gal on the titanium hardtail? That's who it is.
Linebacker wasn't big, Kyle. We're not gonna. No,
hard to get around, it sounds like though.
Oh gosh. Anyway, this
all the way up until 2 miles left.
Anyway, boys, totally screwed up on. I think I way overdid the electrolytes and hydration mixes. I think I way overdid it. It had way too much crud going on and started getting leg cramps at mile 17.
Oh.
So, yeah, that's earlier than I've gotten them at any ride.
Well, okay, Clinton, so let me stop because we talked about this and you thought a couple weeks ago, you're like, I think there's a possibility of over electrolyting. And so like you were running like water with a little electrolytes and then just pickle shots when it came.
Yep.
Cramping.
And I didn't do that for this race. I got in my own head and started worrying and just mixed everything.
You changed plans without testing.
I did. Yep.
Ooh. Okay.
Big mistake.
See, that's why I spent my season never having ever done anything like this in my life. I spent my season racing marathon class and doing longer rides just to figure that stuff out. I had no idea what my body was going to do when I fed it Carbo Rocket for 5 hours straight.
Okay, well, that's the story of my race. I'm done. We need to move on. So who should we go to next? You guys want to rock, paper, scissors it?
I think we got to talk about Kyle's because that's just I love it. It's hilarious and the guy's smiling and he was.
Yeah, let's talk about your heart rate data, Kyle.
He was literally dead man at one point.
He wasn't though. That's the thing.
No, so I had a pretty good goal. I had a pretty good understanding, but I had never done a 52-mile ride on anything before. I mean, that's the longest ride I've ever logged in my life, gravel, road, mountain, anything. And so I didn't know what my body was going to do with that kind of time frame. So I had a program I kind of set in place for heart rate management for me, where I knew I could sit, at least I've proven in the past, I could sit for 4 hours happily. And so I knew that if I could keep it under 170 heart rate, I could keep it moving pretty good at that pace, and I felt good about it. So I pulled into the Berryman with that goal, and I came into the Berryman right on target. I think I was like 240 or so to get to the Berryman, 245, something like that. I was out of there by 3. Klint, your kids and your family were incredibly helpful. They shook my bottles for me with my super sauce in them. Your wife Hannah was very sweet and helped everybody too. So I got through the Berryman though, man, and I pulled into the Berryman much more tired than I wanted to be, and like more tired than I had been even when I had done Berryman rides. So I felt like the muscle fires, like the fire in the legs. I felt that, and so I pulled out of the Berryman and I kind of backed it off, and I never quite recovered until Whiskey Ridge, and so I was suffering, in pain, not having a good time from Berryman all the way out to Whiskey Ridge. And then Whiskey Ridge, I kind of took a break. I told myself I wasn't going to stop again until I got to Whiskey Ridge, so I didn't, and I rode all the way through to Whiskey, and kind of took 5, I guess I would say. And then after that, I felt pretty good. So that you guys all talked about the sisters, like it was this horrendous thing in this trail. So I had the sisters built up like in my head, like I was climbing Half Dome on a bicycle. You didn't tell me that the best section of single track in the entire race is the 2 miles before the sisters, and all of the single track in the sisters.
Yeah.
Like, that's really good.
I agree with that.
Something you have to learn in your rookie year.
I was amazed.
Did you pedal up the sisters the whole way? Did you pedal all the way up them? All 3?
100% no, absolutely not. But that was that like they were steep enough, was fatigued enough in my race that like in my heart, I didn't feel bad about walking the sisters. You know what I mean? Like I got there.
I mean, it's not much slower to walk them. Let's be honest. A brisk walk is about the pace of pedaling.
Right. and I didn't stop. So I didn't, like I never stopped. Like I pushed the sisters the whole way. But like that section of single track leading into the sisters put some fire in my belly. Like that was
fun.
Genuine fun. Like I loved that section of trail, and that's what really got me through the sisters all the way out into back to Bass. Was like that felt good, really good. And then man, when I got to Bass, that climb up Butts was just grueling. Like by the time I got to the top of Butts, I was so happy too, man. I teared up. So as I was coming up Butts, my wife and my kids were in the car coming into Bass down the road. So like I had reached the top of the Butts climb and was literally moments from pulling onto the gravel. And I see my wife with both my kids in the car coming down Bass. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I'm late." And I'm like, "You couldn't have arrived at a better time. Like literally you had a 30-second window or so to catch me. And this is it. This is the window in which I can talk to you." And got to say hi and told her where to go so that she could see me finish and stuff. But man, by that point though, I was toast. So my legs were done, my body was done, that whole section of gravel has no grade to it at all. But I was in my graining gear on sections of that gravel. It just crawled. And then the single track back there is really good too for the descents. But man, I took that nice long descent down, and I felt good pace. I mean, I felt like I was pushing pace hard on the descents, like as much as I could have anywhere else on the trail. But at some point in time, my body was straight shutting down. Like I was no longer blinking, but my eyes were like closing, and then I had to open again. Like so, they weren't blinks. It was just like my eyes would close for moments, and then I'd open again. And so I dipped a tire off the trail on like winding single track. It wasn't even a descent, but like I dipped off the bench cut and had to like pull a foot off and kick myself back on the trail. So I had like 2 near crashes back there on that figure 8 loop. And then by the time I got to the grass, all I could do is just put it in a couple gears down and just spin, and then got to the finish. And I could have absolutely passed out, fell asleep.
I told Hannah, my wife, I said, when Kyle comes across this finish line, just be prepared for some dramatics. And you didn't disappoint. I will describe this. Thank you very much. Kyle comes across the line and he rides to the edge, and I know he's going to do something. Sure enough, he just keeps his feet clipped in the pedals and just falls over on the ground and then lays on the ground very dramatically.
There's some.
But Kyle, we got to talk about something here. And don't get me wrong, I am 1,000% proud of you for doing this race and finishing it and not quitting and just doing it. But here's a personality difference that we have that I didn't realize. I didn't really believe it until I saw we compared our heart rate data. Now we are only 2 years in age apart, right? You're like 37, right?
Yeah, 38.
You're 38? Okay. I'll be 36 in the end of April. Okay, 2.5 years, whatever. But our average heart rate for this race was 20 beats per minute apart. I was 168 average, you were 148 average. And you told me, to your defense, if it's not fun, I'm backing down.
Yeah, and for me, the heart rate, like if you look, like I wish I could segment this, because my heart rate to the Berryman, like at mile 22, was about spot on. Actually, you know what? I can segment this. Was spot on what my normal long rides are. Like it was right there in the mid 160s, like upper 160s. But then after that, I fell apart so hard after the Berryman that I couldn't get my heart rate up. Like what felt comfortable for me during that ride most of the time would be like a 160, 170 heart rate. So here, like I wonder if I can.
Interesting.
My average was 155.
So I think I was average 148 for the day. But if you look at my heart rate though, up until the Berryman, I was right where I normally need to be. Like it was right there, like upper 160s. And then after that, I kind of fell apart. About the 5-hour mark is where my heart rate no longer could push. Like what What normally felt comfortable to me is like that 160, 170. I could do that. I feel like I could do that forever. Now I'll run up to 190 something too occasionally, but that last 3 hours for me were anything above a 150, and I felt like my heart was going to explode. Like my everything was tired. My heart was tired of doing it. Of course, I spent 8.5 hours pedaling a bicycle that day, and you guys spent 5 or 6. But
well, let's get okay. I feel sorry for Silent Bryce that we're making him go last here, but I have questions for him. So
I do want to say though, like, buddy, I thought there's no way in hell you're coming through Bass and not just bailing after Bass.
There was no way I wasn't finishing that race.
I knew Ryan I knew he was gonna do it when he broke his wheel last week and went to great effort to get a new one.
Yeah,
I thought he's really gonna do it. He's serious.
No, here's where my head was at. I knew that if I finished this year, it was optional for me to do it again next year, and I am not doing it again next year. However,
you never know, Kyle.
I have to face 12 months of ridicule on this podcast, having not finished and having no option other than to do this again next year. That was it. It was absolutely quality of life decision making for me. I didn't want to endure the crap from you guys for the next year, and I'm not doing that race next year. I'm not saying never again. I'm just saying I'm going to drink beer and slap high fives and burn wood all day and have a great afternoon.
Give it time. I'll give him a month. I bet he changes his mind.
I don't know. He's pretty adamant about this right now. He's sitting right next to me, and I'm feeling the vibe. He ain't doing it.
There's no way.
Well,
I got saddle sores. I can't sit in an office chair like comfortably still.
So let's talk to the guy who actually was a bicycle racer, Ryan.
And had a good
pretty
race.
Fast this year. Took a lot of time off last year.
Yeah,
547.
547, yeah.
547.
And you were out there. You were riding with the quad god Roy, right? Like
we did.
Quad god.
Roy and I did from the sisters to the finish together, man, and that was enjoyable. I gotta say that. So shout out to Roy. I think we've ridden mountain bikes one time before together, but I really enjoyed it. Super positive. Just him and I were kind of in the same place in our race, like just signs of cramping coming. You can only push so hard, so we just worked together and got to the finish, and so that was good. Yeah, I would say that was positive. But 32 minutes faster this year. My goal was 5:30. Didn't get that, but you kind of got to set that bar high, and if you fall a little short, I still had a good one. And I kind of look at it as, well, if I go 32 minutes faster next year, then I'm under 5:15. So we'll see. That's a big ask, but
5:47 is impressive though, man. I mean, that's where did that fall into your age category? It's got to be. I
was 52nd in my age category. I think 190 or so.
Yeah, I was gonna say it had to be top 25%. So that's fantastic, man.
What'd you do for your hydration stuff, real quick? I'm just curious because I know you struggle with leg cramps like I do. Most people do, Kyle. I don't understand how Kyle didn't get any, but I understand how, but
all right. So
it's gonna sound like I'm making fun of him if I explain how, but
no, I think you're right.
I think if I had, let's put it this way, I think if I had ridden with Kyle, I probably wouldn't have gotten leg cramps.
So I think I just about 2 months ago I started testing like a little bit of different stuff because I struggle with it a lot, and I won't, I've spent a lot of money testing different products too. It's kind of sad now. I'm like, I can only ride on water till next year because I can't afford to spend that kind of money. But one of the products I tried, and I'm gonna kind of swear on it, is company Marten, Maurten, makes a sodium bicarbonate, which is basically.
I've seen ads for that stuff, and when I saw it was on the feed, I thought, I bet Ryan is using that stuff.
So I tested it twice on 2 different of those long rides training rides I did, and then I used it in the race. Until I tested that, I cramped. I was struggling with cramps, and so you just take it in the morning, about an hour, 2 hours before and tried it. But for those listening, don't go buy Arm & Hammer baking soda and take spoonfuls of it. You will destroy your gut. This is specially formulated. It's super.
Yeah.
One dosage of it's $15, but for the effort, like I tried it, it worked. So I think that was super helpful. The other thing I think is I really switched to high carbs. We talked in the pre-show. I was doing 100 grams of carbs per hour, and I think it allowed my body to absorb the electrolytes, and also not. I was using carbohydrates for my energy and not depleting as much of my electrolytes in my system. So in my hydration pack, I had a mixture of Scratch super high carb, which is 40 grams per bottle, and then I had LMNT, 2 packs of LMNT, so about 700 milligrams per bottle of LMNT in that. And then I was doing a GU and a SIS beta every half hour, so there's another 60 grams per hour. So I was getting 100 grams of carbs, and I think that was all of it. I did also carry a couple pickle juice shots, and when I felt those twinges starting to come on, I think my first one came about, when did I take that? It was Whiskey Ridge. So when we started that climb up to Matt Johnson, which I got a story about that, I was starting to feel it a little bit, so I took one real quick in the flat before you go up. And then I took one at the Sisters, and I took one before Butts. So I think just that I tested all that. It worked pretty good. I was able to control it and keep it under control. So about Matt Johnson, I got a bone to pick with Matt, because Matt has ridden. We did the OT 100 years ago together. I've known Matt a long time, and when you could hear him for 10 minutes as you rode across that ridge, him on that megaphone echoing. Kyle, I don't think he was
well
there.
By the time we got to him, he had moved to the gravel road intersection.
No,
after you get back on the trail.
That's where I'm talking. Yeah. So he was up there.
That's not Whiskey Ridge, but
whatever. And he's echoing.
That's the never-ending climb. The never-ending climb.
He's echoing forever, and I'm like, oh yeah, Matt's coming, and you hear him for 10 more minutes just yelling at you across there. Which is hilarious. And I get to him, and he calls me Kyle. And I'm like, damn it.
Man, that was an ambitious guess, too. You're probably 2.5 hours ahead of me.
A lot of credit. I'm like, I looked at him, I go, Matt, it's Ryan. He knew it immediately, but which was funny. So
one of them podcast kids.
Man, I'm not even good enough to get credit for what I've done. All right, whatever.
He does like yelling at me on the mic, and I do love that. So he always, I know he always gets excited to yell at me if he sees me.
It was hilarious. So for me, the race, the problem was getting going. I'm not a gravel grinder. I'm not a fast roadie. I start slow. It takes me a while to get going. Hence why in past I'm always strong after Berryman. I finally get going and I can really hammer. So starting out on the road up in front with those pack, I mean, if you look at my heart rate data, it was through the roof. But I was like, I got to hang in close to the front, kind of, so I could get pulled along. So that was struggling getting going. I think probably until we got to where you got like 4 miles to Brazil Creek, I calmed my heart rate down finally. Kind of maybe waiting in that line across the creek. But anyway, so that was good.
You're a better man than I am. You sat there and waited like a good boy.
Well, I got a funny thing to tell you. So the downhill, right when you come into the single track off the start, right, there's a wink. There's a little line off to the left, I
think I might have noticed that or ridden it.
Recently discovered, I believe too.
I noticed it. However, funny enough, I noticed it, and I get towards the end of it, I think. And there's 2 trees, and I'm like, I think I have to go between those 2 trees. Oh no, my bars are way too wide for that. And I clipped one.
Huh. I didn't have that issue, but okay.
I don't think I went the right way. I clipped one, and I didn't go down, but I kind of unclipped and kind of like saved it. But I was right there at the edge of the trail, and of course, everybody starts yelling at me that I'm the jackwad. cutting the trail and whatnot. But hey, we ride down hills on mountain bikes, in my opinion. So anyway.
Well, you want some poetic justice? Here's some poetic justice for you. As I came into that section, I saw one or two people off the bike, and I thought, okay, this is like every other year. And I saw this kind of opening to the left a little bit, so I took it. I actually lost a position in doing so. The person that was right behind me and Bryce ended up in front of us by the bottom.
Oh, well.
I thought there was a pile up or so. I was just trying not to hit anybody, I wanted to be safe.
It's definitely a longer way to go. It's not cutting.
It's not a shortcut, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
It was definitely not a shortcut.
Anyway, so it was good. The race turned out good. Had a good race. Stopped. My stoppage time was less than a minute the whole race.
Oh wow.
That's impressive.
At Whiskey Ridge, the actual Whiskey Ridge stop, where they had the shots and the tent and whatnot. My buddy Jeff Kulo, shout out to my buddy Jeff, who has raced it in the past several years and couldn't race it this year, ran SAG for me, and he had a fresh pack. I literally threw the pack off, threw a fresh one on, he had a nice full cup of pickle juice there, chugged that, and went rolling, and that was it. Oh. And I gotta say, this is funny.
I probably had 15 minutes of stop time.
There you go. You could have beat last year. This is funny. I'll say this. It's kind of disgusting. I held my bladder the whole race, and I literally gave my wife and kids a hug and a kiss at the finish line, and I'm like, we can get pictures after I go to the restroom. And I'm standing in the bathroom, and there's all the fast guys that had already finished showering and peeing. And I'm standing there crying, screaming. It burned so bad from all that crap I had ingested and not urinated.
And not peed for 6 hours.
Dang, I had to stop. I stopped and peed twice.
Didn't pee.
I stopped and peed like no less than 8 times. I probably got 15 minutes of pee time in my.
Kyle didn't even sweat this race. He didn't even sweat.
Sure, I had a urinary tract infection for a minute there for sure.
All right. Okay, we got to move on to our guest here. Not so silent Bryce, who, to me, it felt just like the Terminator movies, where the Terminator never runs, but no matter what you do, you look back and still there, just coming, and there was a moment after Whiskey Ridge, from Whiskey Ridge all through that next really fast couple miles, I thought, oh, maybe Bryce has leg cramps and is backing it down or whatever, because I don't see him behind me anymore. And sure enough, at the bottom of the never-ending climb, boom, he's back. He's right there. Just Terminator stalking me the whole race. So, Bryce, how was your first epic? Oh, by the way, I want to give him credit. Bryce was on a Stump Jumper Evo with full-size cush cores and V Flow Trail tires, which aren't that heavy necessarily, but they are, and the rubber compound's firm. It's not a super slow compound, but they're like legit knobby tires, like a DHF style tire. And I tried to talk him into taking the cush cores out and all this stuff, and he's like, nope, I want to run lower tire pressures and not worry about flats, and it paid off for the man. I'll give him that. So, Bryce, how was the race, buddy?
Yeah, so I'll start off by saying it was about what I expected. Lots of pain and sorrow. But it all started 2 weeks before I went down and got my first over 50-mile ride just to see how the pain was.
You mean over that? Wait, when did you do a 50-mile ride? We didn't do no 50-mile ride.
Before the race, I went down to Bentonville and Matt hurt me.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
53 miles or something like that. So shout out to my buddy Matt for letting me know. But immediately when I came back from that, I got an ear infection. So for a week I had an earache, and then the pain in my ear went away, but I guess it just moved to my inner ear. So for the full week, right before the race, I had vertigo and was wondering if I was even going to be able to get on a mountain bike. And so I woke up Thursday morning after 4 days of saying I'll feel better in the morning, and I was finally set up without immediately flopping back down on the bed and feeling like I was going to throw up.
Oh, God.
And so I had low expectations. So I just packed up all the stuff I thought I would need and said, you know what, I'm just going to hang out with Klint as much as I can. Saw that Ryan had his time sheet on his bike, and I was like, you know what, that's probably a good idea. So I did the same. I had 5:45, 6 hours, and 6:15, I think, is what I had listed on my times, and the goal was to be somewhere in the middle. And Klint took off faster than we're supposed to after talking to me the previous day saying, don't take off faster than you're supposed to.
Klint gives it
So,
I didn't think I was, okay? I didn't feel like I was. We were, 3/4 of the way in the back of that wave. So I didn't feel like we were going that fast.
Yeah, I had it set up to where I had the first mile time marked down and then every 5 miles after that. So the first mile comes through and we're like blast, and I'm like, Klint, we're way under. And so we kept going. Then 5 miles come down, like, Klint, we're riding Ryan's pace. And so we pretty much, till we got to the creek back up, we were on pace, like way under pace. And then after that, we were right at 6 hour pace until Berryman. So
yeah, it stopped way too long. That was
Klint had to potty. So, but up until Berryman, I will say the race was a lot of fun. Like all that through there was so much fun. And then after that, we had our friend that we kept on going back and forth with. So I didn't know who it was. Klint had the first encounter with her, and he's like, man, somebody's grumpy up there. And then like 5 miles later, I tried to pass, and I was like, I'm going to try to pass you on the ride up here. And she goes, do whatever you want to do. And I was like, oh, okay. So I did.
Well, here's
and
the
then
thing.
Later on, I was like, Klint, was so-and-so the one you were talking about being grumpy? And he's like, yep. Like, okay.
So, well, she was very strong on smooth climbs.
But she beat us both. She was strong.
I had her beat.
Just let her have it, Klint.
The flat tire is what got me. Okay.
Hey.
You know it. Tell the
records.
Truth.
The records show a different story, Klint. Okay. I'm just saying.
All I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying, guys, and you guys will understand this: is that one, I have the trail memorized, and there are sections that because I know the trail and what I'm good at, I know, okay, there's like a downhill and a turn and then a rock garden uphill, and I want to have, like, I'm trying to maximize my strengths and carry speed in those sections, right? And I know if I'm behind certain people, I'm going to be 2 minutes slower on this mile than I would be if I was by myself. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I get in this hurry in certain areas to try to pass people, because I know what's coming and I know what I'm good at, and I know where there's going to be a bottleneck because there's like a rock feature that's slick. And so I know that stuff's coming. It's like if I don't get in front of this person, a section that I can just roll through no problem with lots of speed, no brakes, I'm going to be like literally off my bike walking. And I get maybe like, but here's the thing. I passed other people and other people passed me, no problems, no issues, no complaints, either way. And it just wasn't happening like that. Anyway, keep going, Bryce. Right. Sorry, man.
So, let's see, where was I? Oh yeah, after Berryman, feeling okay. I start to realize that we're off any kind of pace that we were hoping to accomplish, and I was getting kind of sad about that. And then I guess it was about the 30-mile mark. Is that where that tent set up with the pickles and stuff?
That's Whiskey Ridge, yeah, 30.
Yeah, Whiskey Ridge. I stopped for like 2 seconds, eat some pickles. Like I just stopped, grabbed the cup, slammed the pickles, set the cup back down, and look up, and Klint has disappeared. And so
I didn't know you stopped.
I take off.
I did not know this.
I take off and I don't see him at all. I'm like, okay, we're off the time. I have to make a decision. Am I going to keep trying, or am I just going to pedal for the next 20 miles by myself? I was like, man, that sounds horrible.
That's what I did. I rode by myself for like 48 miles.
Yeah, that was.
I'd make a friend for like a mile, and then they'd be too fast for me, and I'd have to back off. Yeah, and I caught a couple people here and there that I knew, but man, no, I literally rode like probably 50 miles of that race by myself.
So, yeah, I decided to go try to catch back up with him. And I don't know how many miles it took, but eventually I started seeing him again on switchbacks. And I was like, okay, we're band's back together. So we get together and we climb up to the gravel road, and it's all good. We're having fun on the gravel. But I had never ridden, or even, I had no idea what's coming after you get back to Bass. That loop I've never ridden. So we're climbing the hill on the pavement, and it's the worst thing ever. And then we get passed by somebody on a single speed climbing this hill, and I wanted to cry. I was crying on the inside.
And then Kyle Hussey came out of nowhere and passed us at the top of that hill as soon as we got on the gravel. It was like, oh, hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
Wait, Kyle
or Jason?
Kyle. It was Kyle. Jason was way ahead of us.
Oh, okay.
Kyle who?
Hussey.
Oh, Kyle Hussey. Okay, all right. Yeah. Because you guys all came in pretty close.
Yeah. When we were in a pack, okay, and Ryan, I kind of did to Bryce and Kyle what I did to you last year, because I knew on that gravel road that you get into the woods and it's that downhill and then that really hard climb.
Yeah.
And I literally, if Kyle Hussey listens to this, he's probably like, Klint, we weren't even I'm just out there riding, okay, but I have these little races going on in my head. He doesn't even know I'm racing him, right? But anyway, I kind of was like, I've got to be in the front when we get into this section. I've got to be in the front. So I kind of hammered on the gravel, the last half of that gravel more than I really wanted to, but went into the woods first. Yeah, Bryce was I could tell Bryce was just like, what are you doing? This is dumb. So all was good. Went down that hill, up the next climb, and with right about 2 miles to go, I start coming down a hill, and I've actually started pulling a gap on Bryce in the group behind me, up the hill. So I'm like, okay, just keep her trucking. I'm like, I'm feeling good. My legs are twitching here and there, but I'm like, they're not gonna lock up on me. I can just tell. I've done this enough. I know. Start going down this hill, and guess who is holding me up? We're back together. I'm just like, no, I should be flying.
You weren't gapping me yet there. I was still with you until you got around her, and I couldn't get around her.
Well, we get to the bottom of the hill.
That first, hang on, Klint. We'll get to that part. But after you get on that trail, that was the most fun. And I'm glad I was still with Clinton on there because I had never seen it before. But we are just flying down this hill.
Was that first descent
right after the gravel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
and
good.
So I even said, Clint, I was like, holy, this is the most fun part of the trail, the whole race right here. But I didn't know that next hill was coming.
It sucks.
Yeah.
And that next hill was the worst hill in the whole race.
It's like a 250-foot climb or something.
It's
like a mile.
I was like, in my head, I was like, why are people talking about the Three Sisters? This is the one you need to talk about.
It is. It is. I was just gonna say, it's like you have the Three Sisters, and then actually that figure eight, it's kind of like another 3 big climbs. There's the big one, but there's 2 other pretty good sized ones.
Yeah.
So it's almost like there's the 6 sisters.
Nobody prepared me for that. I thought I was home free.
Right.
I went down that last descent. I was like, oh, nice little easy climb out. We'll cross that gravel road and I'll be home free. No, that was
same.
Absolutely degrading.
Yeah. So Clint gets around her, and I'm like seeing him take off into the distance, and I there's just nowhere to get around her, and I don't want to risk her checking me into the woods, and I was too exhausted to really exert going up the hill. And so finally we get to this, what's that little step up rock, that ledge that's like a foot step up. And so she
and I had already
and
flatted.
I passed her.
I flatted before that.
It was before that?
Yeah, because I passed her. So we were down in at the bottom of a descent, and there was just enough width. And there's a little creek crossing, and I'm like, it's now or never. And I full out of the saddle, sprinted by her, going up in the next hill. And I go around this switchback. I'm looking down, and I can see Bryce in the pack, a good ways below me. I'm like, all right, like I'm just gonna hammer from here to the finish line. And basically, I get to the top of that hill as I'm going up, and I realize like my back tire's getting a little squirmy, and I have to decide. I'm like, is it going down fast enough? Like, can I make it to the finish without running it off the rim? And I realized by the top, I was like, you're gonna destroy your nice DT Swiss carbon wheel if you don't stop and do something about this.
That sucks.
And I'm like yelling in the trail. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was like yelling, like, as I just pull over at the top of a hill somewhere, and
I get to the top of the hill, and he goes, "Just go, Bryce." And I think I said something like, "Cush core, man," or something like that.
Yeah, just
because on that pavement climb, Klint noticed my back tire was low, and I was like, he said, "You want to stop?" And I was like, "Nah, let's just run it." Later on, I come to find out I was down to 12 psi. I don't know how long it had been. I mean, it had been leaking the whole race, but I think it was my valve stem.
Wow.
But after that last climb, I rode down at the bottom of it. So that lady passed me after that step up. She came charging, and I just got out of the way. I was like, I'm not dealing with this. Just
you shouldn't have. You should have stayed. You should have stayed right in the best line.
There you go. Just threw a bow on her way by.
Yeah. So luckily, I got to enjoy the last descent because she got so far ahead of me on that hill that I didn't catch her till close to the bottom. And then she ended up catching this other lady, and then in front of me, like they're starting to go at it as we cross the road and get into Bass again. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just gonna chill on into the finish line.
So anyway,
so
I'm up there.
What was your race time? Were you 6:18, 6:15?
6:28. It was 6:28.
That's awesome.
So I'm fighting my stupid bacon strip won't stay, like it keeps coming out with the plug tool. It took me like 5 minutes to plug this thing. I had to CO2 it twice. So I'm mad. Like I finally get going and I'm just like hammering, right? And on the very last descent, like the very, very, very last one, this poor guy in front of me, I don't know if it was my fault for making him nervous, maybe. Because I wasn't going to pass him. I had been following him, and he was pretty strong on the climbs, but I kept catching him on the downhills for a couple up and downs. But on the very last switchback, I mean, literally the last one, he washed his front and like low-sided and just like slammed himself into the ground. I don't know his name. I stopped. I'm like, man, are you okay? Like, do you need anything? I've got some paper towels if you're bleeding. He's just like I could tell he's scratched up. He's like, no, but my leg's cramped up. I can't. I'm like, are you sure you don't need help? He's like, yeah, just go. He's just like laying there holding his leg. It's because it's cramping. And I'm like, okay, sorry. I kind of wonder if it was my fault because I was like right behind him. I don't know if I maybe made him lose focus for a second and he just kind of washed his front on a rock, and I don't know. That didn't seem great.
Say heck, he might have just locked up and cramped and couldn't avoid it.
Yeah, but I crossed the finish line. I was also quite dramatic. I unclipped and like threw my bike down, and then I felt really bad because it's a really nice bike. I like threw it down and just like chucked it in the grass.
I was so happy to finish, and then I finished, and then I realized, oh gosh, I've still got to set up a tent tonight. I've got a tent camp with a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old and my wife.
Yeah. And then Kyle and his family proceeded to leave everything.
I was recovering.
Yeah. Then you proceeded to leave everything you own in various places around Washington County and Crawford County.
My wife left her purse at McDonald's afterwards. Oh my God. I'm at Ryan's right now picking up my cooler. And then Klint's got my wife's purse because he had to pick it up in Potosi.
Yeah, and you left your stuff at my house the night before.
So I had to sleep in a tent without a pillow.
Oh my gosh, dude. You're a disaster.
Nothing was functioning after that race. Nothing. Not my head. None of it.
Well, you left your stuff at my house before the race. That wasn't even. Can't even blame the race on that.
No, I didn't even think about it.
While we're, you finished up about your flat, one thing I have, and it kind of goes off like I posted, I think each of us did a post about our race. So is everybody that's raced it. And my good buddy Vince, and I love Vince, he's like trying to get me to lighten everything on the bike. And he made a comment like, you need to run lighter tires. Dude, I bet I passed 60, and I'm
yeah,
to the front. I bet I passed 60 people fixing flats.
I did too.
Like
absolutely. Literally after the first downhill along that flat bottom, Bryce and I passed 10.
Yep.
I mean, B, that you gotta just run like a mid compound tire, people. Like these light tires aren't helping you on a race like this. And B, you guys got to figure out how to ride lighter on your pedals.
Yep.
Like yeah. Like I know some of these dudes are ripping, but like line choice and riding lighters and getting, you just got to run some tires that are a little
what's
better sidewall.
You know what's really sad is if I had just went ahead and added some fresh sealant before this race,
are you serious?
I probably would have been fine. It wasn't that big of a hole.
Didn't resauce?
I forgot to, and it was pretty dry, and so there was no sealant whatsoever doing its job.
Hey, another person I didn't mention that I rode quite a ways with was Zach Johnson, old buddy of ours from Momentum Cycles.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. Zach and I rode like from Berryman out. I kind of caught him, and we rode for a while together. And then
was he on a single speed?
No. He was riding. I don't know what bike he was on. Yeah, it was nice to ride with Zach. Good dude from when we kind of worked a little bit at Momentum Cycles together. So that was fun. Shout out to Zach. I think he had a pretty good race for himself too.
No, next year if I do it, I think I'm gonna get like a light cross country insert for my back tire on top of, if you're running maxes. I ran Specialized tires, but I will definitely run, let's say if I was running maxes, the equivalent of like Exo Plus, just because fixing a flat takes a lot of time.
No, yeah. That was one thing I'm happy with. I was really happy with my bike setup. Like the bike I picked, the one I built, it all worked out. I had no mechanicals, no flats.
Same for me.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I couldn't have been happier with the way all that.
Yeah, and it wasn't until the very end. And honestly, if I wasn't trying to pass where I was in the wet in the creek, I probably wouldn't have got one at all.
Well, like what I noticed with a lot of those guys that were flatting in front of me and I was passing, they were certainly faster racers than me, because they would fix their flat, I'd pass them, and then I don't know, 20-30 minutes later they'd come by me, and then maybe their repair wasn't holding, or maybe they got enough, I don't know.
Oh, you'd see them again?
But then I'd pass them again, and then another 30 minutes later they'd come. These dudes were fast, obviously, because they could pass me, and quite easily, in a quick time. So they spent all this time keep repairing their flats or whatever. Like, it just, to me, it makes no sense. Yes, I get the light tire thing, but we also are in middle of Missouri, probably the roughest, sharpest rocks on mountain bike trails you're going to find in the country. There's just got to be some kind of compromise to survive.
I couldn't believe how many people there were down in that river flat section. Like, it was like that first decent descent. It was 40, 50, 60 people fixing flats or mechanicals. I talked to one gal, what's a poor gal, she was kind of behind me, and I said, hey, do you want to pass? She's like, yeah, if you don't mind. She's like, she was back with me, but she was a pro woman that broke a wheel going down a descent and had to go, she broke a carbon wheel and had to go back to the pits to switch her wheel, and then still caught me and passed me.
How?
Oh my gosh, she's like, no, yeah, I mean, like full swap, like tire, cassette, rotor, everything, like full swap. Had to swap it all back at Bass and then pedal back out. I couldn't believe it.
Wow. Hey, my buddy Andy Thompson, kind of a good family friend. Kyle's ridden dirt bikes with him, but anyway, kind of got into mountain biking this year and did the BT Epic. He committed to it. I took him on some training rides, spent some time coaching him a little bit on what he needed to do, prepare, and the guy's whole goal was finishing, and he finished. I'm looking up his time right now. I mean, he was in the 50 plus. He's almost 60. He was pretty far back, 8 hours and 20 minutes. But the guy's smile coming across that finish line, and the reason I wanted to say this, because I made the comment like it's about setting a goal for yourself and trying to better yourself, or giving yourself that mental toughness to say I can really do anything hard in life, whether it's this or not. If you're thinking about doing it, like this is a guy that got into it this year, into the sport, and came across that thing sitting on his bike for 8 hours and 20 minutes with the biggest smile on his face and people yelling and his wife there, and just a cool thing. So like I encourage, my goal is to get more people to do it again next year, and based off what he experienced, and he's ready to do it again next year. He's already like, here's what I got to do to start training, which is fantastic. But it's about the personal accomplishment that no matter where you finish and you experience is really cool about the BT Epic, and it's a great time with a lot of great people.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm up to a hard stop here. I've got to be done. So unless you have final thoughts are fine, but we have reached the end for me. Listeners, if you did this race and you have comments or questions and you want us to talk about something that you experienced that you think we should have mentioned, something about the trail, I don't know. Let us know on Facebook somehow. Email us at okayestmtb@gmail.com. That's okayestmtb@gmail.com, because that helps us. I mean, we want to hear from you. We want to talk about what you want us to talk about. And, there's 600 and I don't know how many people actually did the race. So there's a lot of stories out there, and we don't mind sharing more of them. So, it's an experience. When you listen to this, we hope you can relate to some of the things we talked about and, kind of get that joy of sort of reliving like, oh yeah, that was the same for me or whatever. Super fast guys that finish in like 4 hours, you can kick rocks, but the rest of I'm kidding. No, I admire you people, but
we had Rogo on one year, didn't we? Talking about this race.
Yeah, we did. He was a guest a couple years ago.
He's a 4:10, 4:20 finisher, isn't he?
Yeah. I don't know what his best is, but it was up there. He is up there. All right, but thanks for listening, everybody, and let us know what you want to hear us talk about next, and we will do that. Have a good day.
Later, everyone.
See ya.